I picked this one specifically out. It says, "I love you, Sheikh Abdur Raheem Green." And
yeah, I love me too, actually.
So the question is, Assalamu alaikum. What can someone do if their depression comes from not being able to get married because the quest for a mate is very hard? It is very hard.
There's this famous Sufi in Persian law, who's, I don't know his name, but I heard about him. I don't think he exists. It's just a guy they made up. But he's like a bit stupid, but he says amazingly wise things, right? So anyway, there's this story I read about him recently, and they were discussing about the perfect wife, the search for the perfect wife. Yeah. And so they were asking, well, Sheikh, why aren't you married? Didn't you find the perfect wife yet? He said, yeah, I did find the perfect wife. He said, when I traveled to India, I found the perfect wife. She was everything that I wanted. They said, well, Sheikh, why didn't you marry her? He said, because she was looking for the perfect husband. You see, sometimes, brothers and sisters, we can make our own life hard for ourselves. So the point being is that, marriage is a big issue, and it's interesting that, when I first started coming to Canada, and I really found this problem was exasperated here, right? I noticed that the whole level of fitna is very different to, UK is bad, but here it is really, really bad. And, it's on a different level. And, I realized that, however many years ago, that must have been like 17, 18 years ago when I came here, it was just like, someone needs to do something for the youth, because, a lot of these parents have no idea what their kids are experiencing, and the difficulties that they're putting up with. So I proposed some solutions. I suggested some things back then, which are very controversial, right? Amongst the things I suggested is that, number one, it's not really controversial. It's really based upon what the Prophet ﷺ said. And I've been pushing for this, is that we should get our kids, our youth married young, right? As young as legally you can, you should get them married, okay? And I know there are problems and issues around, a husband providing for his wife and a dwelling and a house, and I realize that. But the issue here is the choice of evils. If we don't get the youth married when they're young, everyone in this room knows, right? Everyone in this room knows what is the consequence of that. And the most probable, it's not, it might happen. In a lot of cases, it's going to happen, and so I suggested, and I really honestly based this upon, before I was a Muslim, I remember that I used to go to my girlfriend's house, right, and stay with her in her room, and her parents wouldn't bat an eyelid, and she would come and stay with me in my parents' house. And I think my mother batted her eyelids once or twice and then stopped batting her eyelids. But, that was absolutely fine. And, that was a serious long-term relationship, and it wasn't marriage. But, I thought, well, if the non-Muslims can accept that for something haram, by the way, even by their own, some of them, that's how we can't do something like that for something that is halal. So, if I have, why don't I get my son and my daughter married? Okay, he doesn't have his own house yet. Okay, maybe either of them can't really afford to live, but, his wife can come and stay. sometimes, and he can go and stay with her sometimes, until they can sort themselves out. What's wrong with that? At least, alhamdulillah, they're married and we're protecting them from evil and this and that. MashaAllah, I'm really amazed to see that some brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah, are doing this now, MashaAllah. Setting a good example, in my opinion. That's a very, very good thing. May Allah bless them, right? But I do remember in Calgary, I had a run-in with one dad. You know, I think he was originally Algerian or Moroccan. He was Arab anyway. Nothing against the Arabs, but you know. Usually I'm laying the smack down on Pakistan, so it's the Arabs' turn today, okay? No, but no, I mean the brother, mashallah, and you know, I was sitting there with his family and I brought this issue up with him, and you should have seen the guy sort of like, his muscles hunched. He said, you will never get married until you have a house and you have a job and you have a this and that, and you know, and his son is sitting there, right? And I'm sure this guy has, I mean, I think as far as I know, his son had a girlfriend, right? Alhamdulillah, he made tawbah and whatever, right? I wasn't going to like expose that in front of his dad and whatever, but you know, it's like you're getting all hyped up and no, you have to, this is the way I was brought up and you have to have, and it's just totally unacceptable. Yet your son, right, is falling into this evil. You know, but I mean, there was no changing that primitive, what I call it, primitive attitude, right? I mean, it's primitive in the sense that you're imposing a cultural ideology in a place that has no place, right? You have to understand the difference between what your culture teaches, right, and what is permitted in Islam, right? And this is, of course, this is enough to get us all depressed, right, is how Muslims so much are enforcing, you know, their culture upon their children and so on and so forth. Anyway, you know, it's a big topic, but I do hope that, you know, we'll find solutions for that, and maybe just talking about it is one of them. But sometimes, brothers and sisters, you know, the topic of marriage is a huge topic. I do think it's important that brothers should marry someone they find attractive, and I also believe it's important that sisters should marry someone they find attractive, right? And that's especially important in a very highly sexualized society. But don't be unrealistic, right? Don't be unrealistic. You know, you are not going to find, I don't know, God, I can't even think of. No, of course you're going to find a Hur al-Ain, you know, we know that. Now I'm trying to think of some, I don't know, Fox, what's her name? Some Foxy Fox. Huh? Megan Fox. Yeah, you know, you're probably not going to find Megan Fox in hijab, right? You might, you know, but then is she going to want to marry you? I mean, why? I mean, the point being, you know, we've had this long-standing problem, right? Brother, what sort of sister would you like to marry? I'd like her to look, this is way back, right? Not now. I'd like her to look like Sharon Stone. That was when, you know, Sharon Stone was a bit younger, right? Okay, it's like, come on, bro. I mean, you know, there aren't that many Sharon Stone hijabi Muslim types, you know. So, I mean, you know, if you create these type of unrealistic expectations, right, you're creating difficulties for yourself. And by the way, that goes back to why you need to lower your gaze, and you shouldn't be looking at stuff like that, because that's exactly what you do, right? You create those ridiculous, unrealistic expectations, right? And those women are all airbrushed anyway. You think they really look like that in real life, right? I mean, if you probably saw Megan Fox when she wakes up in the morning, you'd probably run. It's like, ah! You know, like before she has the makeup and the this and the that and the whatever, right? I mean, guys, you know, come on. You know, and just get real. You know, so I think those are the sort of things we sometimes create problems for ourselves. And I think we need to watch out for that.